Hi, today I'll be introducing you to T3 games. So first, what are T3 games? These are interactive tactile graphics that are made to teach students how to read tactile graphics. So we start with the most basic things like learning how to identify shapes and lines, and then we move on to more complicated things like maps and diagrams. The way that these T3 games work is that each sheet is a vacuum-formed tactile graphic that has 3 holes on the side that are made for the pins of the T3 tablet. So when a student places that sheet down on the pins, the tablet scans a QR code on the sheet and identifies it, and then lets the student play a game using that sheet. So it gives students audio instructions. The students can find objects on the page by pressing on them and exploring with both hands. And then when a student presses on an object, they get feedback, audio feedback that tells them whether they found the right thing or whether they need to keep looking. And then students can hear their score and time, and teachers can also track that information, so they can track students' achievements that way, or maybe find if they are having any trouble spots. So these games are meant to be done independently or with a teacher. So the sheets come as a set of 40 in a binder, and those 40 sheets are organized into 5 sheet themes. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce you to each one of those themes. So the first 5 sheets are all about the basic elements of tactile graphics. So things like fills or textures, lines, identifying different shapes. And then, and within each one of those themes, the sheets also increase in difficulty. So starting from a very beginner level task and then moving on to more complicated images. So the next 5 sheets are all about variations on those basic elements. Things like now looking at solid and dotted and dashed lines, or looking at shapes at different scales. The third theme is called categories, and now students get to begin to apply those tactile graphics elements to representations of real-world objects, things like leaves and fruit and bugs. And so students will be asked questions like, find the smallest bug, or find the one with the longest antenna. The next theme is called Point of View, and these games challenge students to be able to identify the different ways of viewing an object. So here we have cross sections of fruit, objects viewed from different two-dimensional perspectives. The next theme is called Zoom Out, and in this theme we start with a very close-up tactographic image of a dinner plate, and then each successive sheet in the theme zooms out to a further distance, so to the whole dining room, or even to the whole neighborhood that's containing the house, that contains the dining room, that contains the dinner plate. So this theme is actually a great segue into the next theme, which is maps of real places. So these maps games introduce students to titles and keys and map scales and compasses. Students have to find objects on the map using the key. And then, like in the previous theme, these sheets successively zoom out. So then we zoom out to a whole museum and surrounding museums and roads and metro stops, and then finally a map of the entire National Mall. The next theme is called Mazes. So in this theme, students have to follow a dotted line throughout a tactile graphic, and it's like a fun version of the maps. So students have to meander their way through everyday places like a grocery store or an airport by following that dotted line. And the very last theme is called STEM Applications. So in these most challenging sheets, students have to apply everything they've learned from the previous sheets in order to read diagrams that they might actually find in a science or math class, like an anatomical diagram, a skeleton, or a map of the United States. So that's a brief introduction to the T3 Games sheets, and then I'll have a separate tutorial on how to actually play the games.
Copyright 2022 by Touch Graphics Inc.